The complete story. Summer vacation. The Henderson family had been planning this summer vacation for months. 2 weeks at Pine Lake Resort, a collection of rustic cabins nestled in the dense forest of northern Michigan. No cell service, no internet, just nature and family time. It sounded perfect to Mark and Jennifer Henderson, though their teenage daughter, Casey, wasn't as enthusiastic. "This is going to be so boring," Casey muttered from the back seat as their SUV wound through increasingly narrow roads, pine trees pressing in from both sides. "You'll survive without Instagram for 2 weeks," her father said, catching her eye in the rearview mirror. Her younger brother, 10-year-old Dylan, pressed his face against the window. "Mom, why are all the trees marked?" Jennifer leaned forward, peering through the windshield. Dylan was right. Every few feet, trees bore strange symbols carved deep into their bark. Crude spirals and crosses that looked old, the exposed would darken with age. "Probably trail markers," Mark said, but his voice lacked conviction. They arrived at Pine Lake Resort just before sunset. The main office was a weathered building with a sagging porch, and the woman behind the desk looked like she'd stepped out of another era. Mrs. Crenshaw was probably 70, with steel gray hair pulled into a severe bun and eyes that seemed to assess them with unsettling intensity. "The Henderson family," she said before Mark had introduced them. "Cabin 7. You're our only guest this week." "Really? In peak summer season?" Jennifer asked. Mrs. Crenshaw's expression didn't change. "People prefer livelier accommodations these days." She pushed an old-fashioned key across the desk. Actual metal, no plastic fob. "Dinner is at 6 if you want it. Otherwise, keep to yourselves after dark. The woods aren't safe at night." "What do you mean, not safe?" Mark asked. "Wildlife," she said flatly. "Bears, mostly. Stay inside after sundown." Cabin 7 sat at the far edge of the property, separated from the other cabins by a quarter-mile of dense forest. It was larger than expected, 2 bedrooms, a loft, and a spacious main room with a stone fireplace. But there was something off about it. The windows were too small, and there were heavy iron bolts on the inside of both doors. Why would a vacation cabin need deadbolts on the inside? Jennifer whispered to Mark as the kids explored upstairs. He shrugged, trying to appear unconcerned. Old building. Probably just rustic charm. That first night, they tried to settle in. Mark built a fire while Jennifer unpacked. Casey sulked in the loft, and Dylan found a box of old board games in a closet. Everything seemed normal until around midnight. Casey woke to tapping. Tap, tap, tap. It came from the window beside her bed in the loft. A steady, deliberate sound, like fingernails on glass. She sat up, her heart already racing. The window was too high off the ground for anyone to reach without a ladder. "Dylan, stop it," she hissed, assuming her brother was playing a prank. The tapping stopped. Then, slowly, a face appeared in the window. It was a child's face, pale and dirt-streaked, with hollow eyes that caught the moonlight. The child's mouth opened impossibly wide, and Casey saw that there were no teeth, just darkness. She screamed. Mark burst into the loft within seconds, flicking on lights. "What happened?" There was someone at the window. "A kid." Casey was shaking, pointing at the glass. Mark looked out. Nothing but darkness and trees. "Honey, we're 15 feet off the ground up here. I know what I saw." Jennifer appeared with Dylan, who looked frightened. "What's going on?" "Casey had a nightmare," Mark said, but his eyes kept darting to the window. "It wasn't a nightmare," Casey insisted, but she let her mother lead her downstairs to sleep on the couch. No one admitted it, but no one really slept that night. Morning brought uneasy relief. Over breakfast, Jennifer suggested they hike to the lake, get out of cabin. Dylan found a trail map in a drawer, though it was old and water-stained. Someone had drawn X's over certain areas and written, "Stay away," in shaky handwriting. "That's not creepy at all," Casey muttered. They decided to stick to the main trail. The forest was beautiful in daylight. Shafts of golden sun cutting through the canopy, birds singing, the smell of pine and earth. But Mark noticed the trees again, those carved symbols appearing more frequently the deeper they walked. They reached Pine Lake around noon. It was stunning. Crystal clear water reflecting the surrounding forest, a small beach area with a weathered dock extending into the depths. But there was no one else there. No boats, no swimmers, just oppressive silence. "Let's swim." Dylan started toward the water. "Wait!" The voice came from behind them. They turned to find an old man emerging from the tree line. He was gaunt, dressed in hunting clothes that had seen better days, and his eyes were wild with something that looked like fear. "Don't go in the water," he said urgently. "Don't let your children anywhere near it." "Excuse me." Mark stepped protectively in front of his family. "The lake. It's not safe. Nothing's safe here. You need to leave. Tonight. Don't wait until—" He stopped abruptly, his eyes widening as he looked past them toward the water. Mark turned. The lake's surface had gone completely still, like glass. And beneath that glass, something large was moving. They could see its shadow, far too big to be a fish, undulating with a movement that wasn't quite swimming. "What is that?" Jennifer breathed. "They've been here longer than us," the old man whispered. "Longer than the trees. The natives knew. That's why they marked the territory, why they avoided this place. But we didn't listen. We built here anyway." "What are you talking about?" Mark demanded. "The children come first. They always come for the children. They'll tap on your windows, call to them in voices that sound like friends. Then—" A sound erupted from the lake, a long, low moan that seemed to vibrate through the ground itself. Birds exploded from the trees in panic flight. "Run!" the old man shouted. "Get back to your cabin. Lock everything. Don't open the doors no matter what you hear." He disappeared into the forest before Mark could stop him. They ran. Back at the cabin, Mark bolted both doors while Jennifer closed and locked every window. Dylan was crying, and even Casey looked terrified. "We're leaving," Jennifer said. "Right now. Pack everything." But when Mark went to get the car keys, they were gone. He left them on the kitchen counter. He was certain of it. Now, they were simply missing. "Maybe they fell," Jennifer said, but they could both hear the desperation in her voice. They searched for an hour. No keys, and the sun was setting. "We'll walk to the main office," Mark decided. "It's only a quarter mile. We stay together, move fast." "Dad, look." Dylan pointed to the window. Children's handprints covered the glass on the outside, dozens of them, small and dirty, pressed against every window they could see. And in the growing darkness beyond, shapes moved between the trees. Small shapes. "They're surrounding us," Casey whispered. Night fell completely. The power went out. In the darkness, lit only by Mark's phone flashlight, which somehow still worked despite no service, they heard it. Children's voices singing. The melody was wrong, discordant, like a music box playing underwater. Come out, come play with us. Beneath the water, beneath the trees. Come out, you're just like us. We've been waiting, please." "Don't listen to them," Mark said firmly, pulling his family close. "Stay away from the windows." But Dylan was staring at the door, his expression distant. "They sound sad. They sound lonely." "Dylan, look at me." Jennifer grabbed his face. "That's not real children. Do you understand?" Something heavy slammed against the door. Then another impact. And another. The wood cracked, but held. "The loft," Casey said suddenly. "We can get on the roof from the loft window." Climb down, run for the main office. It was risky, but staying seemed worse. They climbed to the loft as the pounding intensified. Mark forced open a small window, and the humid night air rushed in, carrying that song with it. He helped Jennifer through first, then Dylan. Casey was climbing out when they heard it. The sound of the front door splintering. Casey, move. Mark pushed her through and squeezed after her, pulling the window shut behind him. They were on a steeply pitched roof, 18 feet above the ground. Below, pale figures emerged from the forest. Dozens of children with hollow eyes and slack faces, their movements jerky and wrong. They looked up at the family with expressions of desperate hunger. This way. Mark led them along the ridge toward a nearby pine tree whose branches came close to the roof. It was their only chance. Jennifer went first, grabbing branches and climbing down with surprising agility. Dylan followed, his small size making it easier. Casey was about to go when one of the children below spoke with her best friend's voice. Casey, help me. I'm lost in the woods. Please, Casey. Casey froze, tears streaming down her face. Emma? That's not Emma, Mark said firmly. Emma is home in Indiana. That thing is not your friend. But Casey was leaning forward, drawn by the familiar voice. Mark grabbed her just as she started to slide down the roof toward the edge. "No," he shouted, pulling her back. The thing wearing Emma's voice shrieked, a sound no human throat could make. All the children began shrieking in unison, a cacophony of rage and hunger. Mark practically threw Casey into the tree, then followed. They climbed down recklessly, branches scratching their faces and arms. The moment Mark's feet hit the ground, they ran. The children gave chase. Mark could hear them behind, not running, but scuttling, their movements insect-like and impossibly fast. Jennifer had Dylan's hand, practically dragging him. Casey was sobbing as she ran. The main office seemed impossibly far away. Something grabbed Mark's ankle. He fell hard, the breath knocked from his lungs. One of the children had him, its grip cold and strong, pulling him backward. He kicked frantically, his shoe connecting with its face. The thing didn't flinch, just opened its mouth wider, that terrible darkness inside. "Mark!" Jennifer screamed. Then light exploded around them. The main office's floodlights, blazing to life. Mrs. Crenshaw stood on the porch with something in her hands, a massive spotlight that she swept across the forest. The children recoiled from the light like vampires from sunlight, releasing Mark and retreating into the shadows. "Inside! Now!" Mrs. Crenshaw commanded. They stumbled into the office. Mrs. Crenshaw slammed the door and threw multiple locks. The building was covered in the same carved symbols they'd seen on the trees. "I warned you to stay inside after dark," she said, not unkindly. The protection symbols only work on permanent structures. The cabins were built wrong. They left gaps. What were those things? Jennifer demanded, holding her children close. What's left of children who came here decades ago? There was a camp here in the 1950s. 60 children came for the summer. Only 12 left. Mrs. Crenshaw moved to the window, watching the darkness. Something in the lake took them, changed them. Now they're trapped between life and death, always hungry, always looking for others to join them. "Why do you stay?" Mark asked. "Someone has to maintain the wards, keep them contained here. If they spread..." She shook her head. "Your car keys are in that drawer. Your cabin key, too. Take them. Leave at first light. The things don't come out in daylight." They spent the night in Mrs. Crenshaw's office, huddled together, listening to scratching at the windows and that terrible singing. At dawn, the sound stopped. Through the window, they saw small figures retreating into the forest, fading like morning mist. Mrs. Crenshaw unlocked the door. "Go now. Tell no one about this place." If people come looking... She didn't finish the sentence. They drove away from Pine Lake Resort without looking back, the carved symbols on the trees seeming to watch them go. 2 hours later, when they finally had cell service, Mark called the sheriff's office to report the incident. The deputy who answered listened patiently, then said, "Sir, there's no Pine Lake Resort in that county. Never has been. Are you sure about the location?" Mark checked his GPS history. The coordinates were there, but when he looked them up, they showed only empty forest. No resort, no cabins, no lake, but his family was covered in scratches. Dylan still had bruises on his wrist from where something had grabbed him. And every night, when it's very quiet, Casey swears she can still hear children singing, come out, come play with us." The Hendersons never took another vacation together. Some summers are better left forgotten